That's why I always thought it
Recording in progress.
Good evening. I'd like to call the January 28th meeting to order. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you everyone for coming. Our first order of business tonight would be to reopen or it's already open, the tow ordinance amendment. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Continue. So let's say continue.
Do I have a motion to continue the public hearing for our tow ordinance amendment?
Motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
Who was the first?
Nathan?
Nate. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Do we have anyone that'd like to speak on the toll ordinance? Or the proposed toll ordinance? We've had a lot of the operators come together to kind of work out any differences. I don't foresee that we're probably gonna end up tabling the toll ordinance tonight, because it's on the agenda to be voted on tonight. But we're gonna push it off probably 1 or 2 meetings to ensure that the final language in the toll ordinance is agreeable to all parties. That said, we're still gonna have the toll ordinance public hearing tonight. We'll hear everybody, any changes, any thoughts, and then we'll try to see if we can incorporate that or get into the final
Can we provide copies
of the proposed.
of the draft that we're at now?
Yeah, did that not go out to the stakeholders?
Oh, I don't know.
I think a lot of the stakeholders,
I don't know.
I think it
Nothing to
did,
do with it.
but
I can make copies while they're
yeah,
delivered.
that would be good.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, because I don't want to vote on it until everyone's in agreement.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yes.
I did not get a list, so I don't know what I would be
What the
voting.
final changes
Yeah,
were?
yeah.
Okay. Jen, can you facilitate those?
No, none cannot.
No.
Jen, oh, you're.
Brenda,
I'll do it
I'll do
tomorrow.
it.
I'll hear them all.
Thank you. All right, would anyone like to speak on the ordinance?
Yeah, I'll say something. So I got a copy of the resolution, of the amendment of the local law, and a lot of it seems to be, is what we talked about earlier, last month. There was a couple of things here. It didn't, well, first of all, I'd like to apologize. Last week, I was a little strong-headed with Ken last week, so I want to apologize. I was just getting a little excited, so I apologize on this.
Thank you.
Going back to the distance on the outskirts of the town of Fallsburg, everybody says there's a federal law. I never seen this statement about federal law that you have to extend it into other parts outside your area of the town. Everybody has a town ordinance, and all of a sudden Fallsburg is doing this additional 1 mile out of the boundaries of the town of Fallsburg. And whether it's a mile or a quarter mile, if the law says you have to extend your boundaries out of the town, it doesn't, if there's a rule that says it has to be a minimum of a mile, okay, but if it doesn't, why couldn't we go with a quarter of a mile or an eighth of a mile? We didn't specify under the permitting of the license. We had this discussion at the meeting also about what makes you eligible for a license. Now, in my company, I have 2 separate buildings, 2 separate licenses, 2 separate trucks, 2 separate everything, because I'm in the insurance business, so I have to justify auto mechanics and auto body, because insurance companies pay different rates, believe it or not. So when it's mechanical, it goes to the body mechanic shop, and if it's body work, it stays in the body shop. So I have to specify two different businesses, which I have, in two separate buildings with two different addresses and two different everything. Some companies don't have that, and, you know, years ago, it didn't make a difference because we were one small little knit family, and I never made an issue out of it. You know, my brother isn't here, so he was supposed to be doing this, but I had to jump in. So we didn't really make an issue of it. But now that we have other people coming into the town and opening up businesses, it doesn't prevent that person or other companies to come in with multiple trucks and put multiple names on a building and have 40 people on the tow list. It's gonna be an issue if we keep the ordinance written the way it is. It should be one, the way I see it, one name, one owner, one person, one insurance policy, one registration, one reg number, one building, operating building. I see the fees are went up, that's good, it's a good thing. But it was here, when I read this, and I only got it today, so. Now, also, was this ever posted in the
No.
newspaper?
No.
Okay,
That wasn't required.
okay.
I
Okay.
checked on it today, it wasn't required.
Even for a change of resolution of local law? Okay. The storage rates would still be the same rates as they were in the original law, is that correct? So they had the change of the rates for the towing, but it didn't have the different rates for the storage. I don't know if you guys are going up with that or staying with the same rate for the storage. Other than that, I see that we changed it also from 30-minute increments for labor, which is okay. Fair and reasonable, it depends what kind of, who's doing the call. I mean, labor rates in our industry now go anywhere from $85 to $125 an hour for labor, depending, you know, skill set. But if you're doing a recovery and it's one person or two people, that price can be doubled, because you have two people working. So I guess that will fall into the labor rate, whether if it's one person working or two people, depends what the job is. If the car's over an embankment, one's operating the truck, the other one's hooking up and moving dirt and shoveling and whatever he's doing, that should be under labor. So I guess, yeah, it isn't specified, but I'm just bringing that issue up. And that's all I've seen at this point. I mean, I got this laid and that's what I've seen. I'm sure that other people have some, Mike, did you review it all?
I never got it.
So,
I don't want that.
that's what I had, unless you guys could bring this, you know, more stuff to light that we picked up on, maybe.
I'll drop off, drop off.
Mike, can I just say something? I just wanna make it clear, it wasn't the board's fault, it was my fault. I didn't know I was supposed to send it to y'all. So, there was no, you know, fault to the board. I didn't know I was supposed to send it to the, towing people, so I apologize. There was nothing that happened here that had anything to do with anybody on that board. So, and they have 7 days to go through it, and you'll have 7 days too.
So, one more thing, about the area, the 1 mile area, or the quarter mile area, or whatever it is, does it specify that it has to be a mile, or could it be an eighth of a mile, quarter of a mile, 1,000 feet?
It's all based on health, safety, and welfare, and basically the local law would have to demonstrate that whatever that distance is does fairly measure something there's a reason behind it for safety on the roads, where they're being brought. So really, there just has to be a good reason as to why that distance is chosen rather than doing a different one. I mean, that's sounds a little wishy-washy, but.
All right, so I think most of the tow truck operators would figure an eighth of a mile out of town radius would be good, instead of a mile.
Does anyone else want to speak on the tow law?
I see you got a haircut today. Almost. Got a little shave. Whatever you want.
Appreciate you all taking this to the next level and trying to make some adjustments. Obviously, I just got a peek at this tonight. There is some There's a chapter in here where you're charging per truck. I would love to see that per facility. For argument's sake, if we want to register 5 or 10 or 20 trucks, we're paying per truck, but we're still getting our one term. If they made it per facility, you got a permit for your facility, no matter how many trucks you want to register. That was one item that I thought maybe you could take another look at. The other item is when they do the truck inspections, obviously, I would think it would go a hair further than just registrations and insurance inspection, maybe some reasonable supplies and reasonable equipment to perform the tasks safely. There's a great big section about soliciting. The town found it unsafe and all that. I'd like to see the specific findings. We have people that we've dealt with for many, many years, not only me, the Carrillos, the Wieners, everybody else involved. For argument's sake, there's a fellow in the ditch right down the street from Behan's, okay? And somebody stops and says, hey, Behan's right up the street, you want me to call him and come out and pull you out from the ditch? Is that soliciting? I don't know. So I think that when people are in business for 20 or 30 or 40 years, and some people even more, you're going to have word of mouth, you're going to have some recommendations. I don't think it falls in the category of always soliciting. I've been to plenty of accident scenes where I've heard people say, hey, look, Perillo is a fantastic body guy, maybe you want to take your car over there. I don't know if that qualifies as solicitation. In fact, I think they used to call him the ace of body.
It's a border body.
There you go. There's,
I'm a straightforward.
and then when it comes to punishing people for their idea of solicitation, I believe that should be based on a conviction, not just reasonable evidence. Your idea of reasonable evidence and somebody else's, including my own, may differ just a hair. When it comes to limiting the number of businesses and permits, it says you can really only have one business at one location. I think that maybe they should tidy that up a bit and say, we'll issue one towing permit per facility. Because if somebody, for argument's sake, where we operate, there is a fellow repairing cars on one side of the garage and we're towing on the other side of the garage. So he really is already a business. He doesn't have a permit from me, but he is another business. So I just think that should be specific to a towing permit. I know there are people that are on the list a number of times for common ownership. I think the board should give some consideration to what makes those businesses unique. I happen to own a number of them. We supply different registrations for each business. The trucks are registered to the individual businesses. We supply tax returns for each individual businesses. They're unique, they're separate. And this I'm sure is just a clerical item, but when it comes to road service and towing rates, it seems like they just blended into one unless I'm not reading it properly. So I think that's just a typo. You went into road service and then it immediately went into, there's no rate in there for road service is my point, which I guess they could just use the based, and what I'll call this is, a base towing and hookup rates that you made available. When it says rates for all motor vehicles, I think you should make that, that should be specific to vehicles, say, under 8,600 pounds. We're certainly not going to go out and tow tractor trailers that are upside down for $240, and nor would you want anybody to. And I don't, and again, I may be misreading, but I don't see storage rates, so obviously you guys have to figure out what you want for storage rates. And with all due respect, that's the only, I hope I wasn't long-winded, but those are the only things that I think that I would at least take just a closer look at. And again, I appreciate you all, taking the time and energy to help us out. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak on this matter tonight? so at this point, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing, to extend it with conditions. I don't think we're gonna vote on it tonight, I won't suggest we do. But as far as the public hearing, I'm open to suggestions. For the public hearing? You wanna keep it open, Steve? Oh. So do I have a motion?
Should we maybe close the public hearing but leave it open for written comment?
That's a good
How,
idea.
how,
2 weeks?
So
I think 2 weeks.
So we will give everybody the most recent copy with changes and,
yeah,
so I'll make a motion to close the public hearing but leave the,
close the verbal.
close the verbal, leave the written for 2 weeks.
I'll second it.
I have a motion to close the verbal public hearing, but leave the public hearing open for an additional 2 weeks for written comments, and I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No? And I have one recusal. Okay, so the public hearing is officially closed, except for written comments, but that's gonna be open for another 2 weeks. All right, so let's move on to our regular meeting. So the only thing I have to report tonight would be, just to discuss the food pantry that we had yesterday. As usual, it was a success. We had many families. In fact, we actually ran out of food this time, which was unfortunate, because there were a lot of people that still need the food very dearly. But we're gonna work on trying to get more food for next week, or for next month. Also, we did have one person ride the bus. It'll be good to have more people since Rolling Bee is providing the service for free, but again, as long as it's being utilized, they're gonna continue to provide the service, which is an excellent donation on Rolling Bee's part. Paula, do we have any correspondence tonight?
No.
Correspondence. All right, so then I'll like to open it up to public comment. Anyone signed up to speak?
Over.
Who's first?
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're the best. Gary Tavernier.
Why am I here? Because I got a phone call from the supervisor that I've been removed from the planning board. By a 5-0 vote. In other words, you all voted to remove me. Is that true? Is it true?
Mr. Tavernier, how this works is you're here to make a comment. They don't necessarily have to respond, so
It's not Q&A.
it's not like that.
Are you kidding me? I've been removed from a position that I held for I don't know how many years, okay? My name, my family name is in jeopardy because of what you did. I want answers. I want answers. And I'm going to stay here until I get answers. Are we all dumb? Stupid? Okay? Did you vote 5-0 to remove me? I can't believe this. I sat on this board in the 80s, and if somebody came in front of the board, we answered those questions. We didn't stand like a bunch of dummies. What? In other words, I've been removed with no explanation. Nobody told me why I've been removed. Why have I been removed?
So typically we don't answer, and it's probably a mistake that I'm going to, but you weren't removed. Your term was up, and we had several people that approached us to be a part of the board, and if we reappointed everyone that's term was up, we'd have the same people there forever. So I would like to say, from me personally, I appreciate all your years. I know you were a councilman also, but we don't always, your term was up, and we had people that wrote letters that they wanted to join the board, so we just made a decision that, you know,
But the courtesy, when you're removing somebody from office, I'm 90 years old, okay, I should be retired. But when you're removing somebody from office, at least show them the courtesy to bring him in front of the board and give him a reason. Not giving you a phone call because you don't want to see him face to face. And it's wrong if you don't do it,
I don't disagree with you.
okay?
Our communication lacked, but we actually, I believe we have a plaque to thank you for your service.
You can take a plaque and...
It wasn't intentional. I myself know you, I appreciate all of it, but
I know you and your family for
I know,
80 years,
I know.
okay?
It was not done maliciously or intentionally, and I apologize.
But not to answer questions to the public.
That's just a general policy. I'm only doing it because I don't feel that you know, it was a misunderstanding. You certainly didn't deserve that. Typically, we don't have a back and forth in public comment, ever. So it's not, this wasn't,
But you should at least bring the person in front of the board and explain to them why he's been relieved.
I apologize.
I accept your apology. But the rest of the board stand like a bunch of assholes and don't do nothing. It's a disgrace to this community. I'm 90 years old. I spent 80 years of my life in this community. I was a councilman. I was on the zoning board, on the planning board. I spent a lot of time in this town.
I know.
And what do I get?
It was, again, I apologize. It wasn't,
I
it
accept-
wasn't done because of anything you did, other than you've been on the board many years. We had several people that wrote letters. Our communication was very poor.
Who filed a complaint against me?
Nobody. It had nothing to do with you at all. Just your term expired, and we had,
All I can say to you, and I respect you, okay?
I'm sorry.
No, I
It was not,
respect you, okay?
yes.
But I don't respect the rest of the board for not opening their mouth. You're a detriment to the community by not allowing answers to the public. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tappan.
Thank you, Gary. Next up?
James Legari.
Good evening. In the past, when I've spoken, my focus has been on the town's water, aquifer, town's ability to provide the water, the new subdivisions, and the town's wastewater treatment plant. Tonight, I want to address another issue. Those that worked on the town's comprehensive plan back in 2018 that laid out the current agricultural zoning areas knew even then that the town board did not have the ability to provide the water, sewer, or electricity, electrical capacity for the developments that had been grandfathered in at that time. As the comprehensive plan was in the process of being developed, representatives from NICEC were consulted and had a meeting with the town board at that time. The concern they expressed, that's NICEC, was their ability to provide electricity through the existing grid that these grandfathered developments would eventually need. NICEC representatives had at least one additional meeting with that town board discussing their concerns that their current grid system would not be able to provide electricity for all of the developments that were in process at the time. I bring this up tonight because this board will soon vote on making changes to the 2018 ag zoning laws. The way this change is written will allow ag zone land to be used in such a way that substantially increases the demand for water, sewer, and electricity. I already know the results of our town's water and sewer problems. What I'm asking for tonight is the following. Has this town board or staff met with NICEC regarding their ability to provide power to all the current developments in process? Number two, Is there documentation or correspondence from NICEC provided to this board, the previous board or staff regarding their ability to provide electricity to the town of Fallsburg? If so, I request a copy of the above and ask that it be made public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Legari. Mr. Brett Budd?
Hi there, I'm Brett Buddy, I'm from 134 Majestic Road.
I apologize.
My wife and I own Majestic Farm in Mountain Dale. And the reason I'm here today is I want to tell you about myself as a farmer so that I don't become an abstraction in this discussion. My wife and I moved here 17 years ago. We moved down to a woodlot. We cleared the woodlot. We built our house with our bare hands. My wife was fantastic at carrying lumber and driving nails. We've put in an apple orchard that we got money from the county to do. We've put our lifeblood into this place. For 7 years I worked at Center for Discovery. I put every dime I made into my farm. The well on my farm went dry this summer before the drought started. And then it stopped being dry after Labor Day. The drought continued on. We are depleting the aquifer. This is stone from the land around here. This is blue stone. This is water on top of it. It's been on here all day long. I'll leave it here. Somebody can have it as a paperweight so you'll remember. This stone does not perk. It requires a crack in the rock to fill that aquifer. We must not deplete our resources. I won't have a job. Maybe I'll have to have a truck to haul water around to my neighbors. It's insane. You guys need to really think about people like me. You're going to destroy my livelihood. I'm scared to death. Please have mercy.
Thank you, Mr. Buddy. Mr. Paul Walsh?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Walsh. I'm the president of Thompson Sanitation, which has been a provider of refuge and services to the town of Fallsburg for about 20 years now. Recently, our county, and I'm lucky that I can refer to our legislator, if you would mind coming up.
Sure.
He can.
Is this a setup? Is this a setup, Paul?
What's that?
Is this a setup?
No, it's not a setup.
Okay, good.
These are your people, aren't they?
They're my people. Everybody's my
So-
people.
The county increased their rate at their transfer station by 25%. Doesn't sound like much, but maybe you can tell us what that means.
I did explain that, I explained it a couple of weeks ago when it first happened, so our tipping fees for the land, first of all, we have a major problem with getting rid of our garbage. All our garbage goes to Seneca Meadows, which is many, many miles away, and it gets hauled there. This company, our contract expired last year, we got a 1-year renewable contract with them, extension for 1 year. The rate went from 125 to 137.50. Not knowing what's gonna be next year. But during that time, for the last 5 years, before, many years ago, there was a landfill tax to close the landfill. Everybody had on their tax bill like $175, $200 a year it was. So when the closure process was finished, during that period, the cost of closing the landfill became less. So we had monies left over that we subsidized the tipping fees to the haulers, the people that came to the landfill, even the C&D guys. We subsidized, cost the county over $2 million a year. We subsidized the difference of what the actual cost was to get rid of the garbage. So that tax went away about 3 years ago, but we kept on paying it. So during our process of going through the negotiation prices for tipping fees, that number came up during committee. And we discussed it, saying that why should everybody, all the taxpayers, subsidize haulers, C&D guys, and people just come in and dump garbage. The actual cost for a ton is $150 a ton. So that's when we raised the prices. Paul has contracts, and I did come to the town board to explain this, that, you know, when you come back to them and come to renegotiate the contract, they should be understanding that it wasn't your fault, and it's just, you know, this is what's happening. And that's why we're going into looking to, we're doing research now from waste to energy to remove our garbage in the county. It's a process that's going forward. We're not doing, we're in our discovery period now to look how we're gonna do it. We do have a company who's interested in coming to the county, and that's where we're at. And on top of that, we have transfer stations throughout the whole county. And some towns pave their own way, like Bethel and Gransville pay for their own transfer. They man their own transfer stations. We just haul the garbage out of there. There's other towns that the county pays those men to work there every day or 3 times a week, whatever it is, and that's gonna be coming to an end too, I understand. And we're discussing it. It's in discussion now. A lot of towns ain't gonna like it, but listen, if other towns can man it themselves and run it the way they want, it's as many people they want there, it don't matter to us, but everybody shouldn't have to pay for somebody else's transfer station. That's how I feel. And I always did defend Fallsburg when I hear about, you know, the sheriff's department, we have to pay for this, and this, and I said, listen, I'm paying for three police departments. I pay for Fallsburg Police, the sheriff's department, and the state police. I mean, I'm paying for 3 departments technically, when everybody else in the western side of the county doesn't pay for a private, you know, not private, but.
One last question before you sit down. What was the lead time that was given to all the haulers?
For the main,
From the time that.
well, the first, well, when
Was
we,
it 2 weeks?
yes, what happened was we renegotiated our contract. We found out on a Monday, we told them on Thursday. And then we knew about it on Thursday, and they had an idea this was happening, but they didn't expect to see the whole 150 at one time, because it came up before budget process. So in November, December, you guys found out in December, right? Maybe November. It was dropped on their laps, and it was dropped on their laps.
Can I ask a question?
To give you an idea,
So you like to do this?
I break the rules, as you can see.
That's good, I always do.
So, if the county was subsidizing, monies ran out, why didn't, instead of you dropping it all in 1 year, why didn't you phase it in over 2 or 3 years, so it wouldn't be?
Because next year could be a whole different problem, when we have no place to bring the garbage. It could be $175 to $200 a ton. We don't know yet.
waste of it, all right, thanks, Joe.
We got it.
So just so everybody has an idea, truck runs through the town of Fallsburg, used to cost us about $750 to dump it, now it's around $1,200 to run. And that's a daily
A full garbage truck.
full truck to go through here, and your town produces a lot of waste. So we try to do our very best to keep the town clean and healthy and safe. What I'd like to do is come back to the board, and there is provisions in our contract, I believe, that would allow us to pump in a rate increase, which was so unexpected. Too bad the county didn't negotiate that. Sorry, Joe.
That's okay, it's the truth.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Adams, please.
Hi, good evening. Last Tuesday, we had a public hearing, and it's been extended to next week. And I noticed that we had a full packed room, and I got calls, and a number of us did, of people who tried to come, but there were people in the doorway and there was no room in here. And the public hearing continues to be open because I think partly we want to do more research. It's a very serious changes in these amendments, and we want to have time to research it. So I would like to know, but perhaps suggest, that either we get a bigger room, and I know we can't use the senior center because I've been there and there's no Zoom, But what about using, I don't know, the college or the school, to have, because there will be more people. There are 89 people on Zoom. So the next hearing, people are very concerned about these zoning changes, and they've been reading the documents and trying to understand, and they've got a lot to say. So I believe that people who want to talk, should be allowed to talk, and we need to create a way for that to happen. Either keep the hearing, public hearing open so that everyone can speak, or find a bigger space for next Tuesday's meeting. We'd really appreciate that, and I think it's actually the town board's job to make sure everybody's heard. Thank you.
Mr. Carlo, did you want to talk?
But that was for the public hearing.
Okay, all right, so I have nobody else that has written on the comment sheet. Does anybody want to speak? Okay, is anybody
Anyone
online?
I have Pam Wagner.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm calling in to find out specifically about the discussion items, starting with number 2, the Empress. Back on November 19th of last year, Ken Ellsworth did a presentation on the water capacity. And at that time, he stated, or it was implied, that we do not have any water capacity for any more developments other than the ones that were approved already, which Helen Budrock had talked about, and that we do not have water capacity for this particular development, which is located near the Lock Sheldrick Post Office. So I don't understand why he wants to discuss that. It's a done deal unless we find water somewhere. And they said also that they couldn't drill wells because I think that was during the planning board. They said that a lot of the wells that were drilled were gonna come up dry. That's point 1. Number 2, when we talk about number 1 and 3 as far as ag zones being converted to something else, I want to bring up a point about the comprehensive plan that was done in 2018. I did a look through Scott Dubois' budget, and I noticed the money that was being spent for the comprehensive plan, and so far it amounts to about $84,000. When speaking with Stephen Vigliente last week, he said it was approximately around 100. Because we did this plan and we had many people involved, and they put in their suggestions, and we should be following this, as in that we don't want to disrupt the ag zones. We need a certain amount of, natural areas, and that we shouldn't disturb the wetlands. If we're following the comprehensive plan and the town put in $84,000 so far for it, why would we be doing something that is the opposite? Or why would we be not recognizing what the comprehensive plan states and that we should be following it? Because if we keep doing plans and studies and we don't use them to our benefit, then what is the point of it? And then basically the town is pissing away the money. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Money is money. Our finances are tight, and I'm hoping that you will take this all into consideration when you are making decisions about how this town is going to turn out. Thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you, Pam. Does anyone else want to speak? Either in the room or online?
I have Jen Alice. Elise. Jen, you can unmute yourself.
Sorry, I was just clapping for the last comment. I wanted to just state, this is Jennifer Lashansky. I just wanted to state that I think given the agenda items that are before the town board this week and next week, that it is of grave concern to be talking about redistricting on top of making zoning amendments, given the issues of water, electricity, and budget that you've heard tonight. So I was applauding for the previous well-researched comment, and just wanted to reiterate that talking about redistricting at a time when you're also making zoning amendments is, it's a bit too much. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Anyone else like to speak?
That's it.
All right, if no one else wants to speak, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public portion, and we're gonna move on to our department head updates. Parks, is Arnold here?
That would be me.
Oh, you submitted something.
This is Arnold Zaleski. Good evening. With snow, it's been a challenging month, especially cleaning sidewalks and the plowing we do. We have been busy with repairs to our town facilities, including a new glass window for the police dispatchers. This year, our July celebration is set for Sunday, July 6th, and we are busy planning that day. A few weeks back, our trip to the Museum of Natural History, which I chaperoned with our town clerk, Paula. A good time was had by all. Presently, we are sponsoring a holiday mountain ski and snow tubing day with our youth. Harris and I met with the Thompson and Liberty Recreation Departments. Ideas were shared about possible collaboration in the future, and Tri-Town Cornhole League was discussed forming. We will keep you posted on what develops. Harris and I met with representatives of the Daffodil Project, whose initiative is to plant 1.5 million bulbs to draw awareness to the 1.5 million children who perished in the Holocaust. Bulbs are donated, and last year the group reached 1 million planted. Harris has locations for 2 gardens, and we will plant 3,000 bulbs in the fall. We will be reaching out for community involvement as we get closer to planting, roughly between September through October. Our Sullivan 180 project for this year will cover a redo of the Mountaindale basketball court and surrounding garden area. More details to follow as we fine-tune the project. Saturday, February 8th will be the Hurleyville Town Youth Ice Fishing at Morningside. We finally have ice, so we expect a big turnout. Thanks as always for your support. Arnold Zaleski, Park and Recreation Director.
That's it. Thank you. Next up, our police chief.
Everybody, I kind of did a little bit end of the year summary just to give people an idea of what's been going on in the PD. This year our department answered over 10,000 calls to service. The number's only going to continue to grow with the number of homes being built and the increase in traffic in the town. The arrests for 2024 were up 20%. I always say it doesn't mean that crime is up, it also means that we have a great group of active people out there doing their job too. I thought Arnold would be here, but I want to thank him and Harris and their staff. They replaced the worn out floors in the station for us prior to the holidays, and our front window and dispatch was broke. The glass was broken in, so they actually came in, and they had a hard time, but they got that changed for us too, so I'm very thankful for what they did for us. The PD received the 2 new patrol cars, a new Dodge Durango and a new Dodge Charger, both of which are all-wheel drive. They were for the 2024 budget. We got them a little bit late. We have 3 more on order, 2 unmarked Durangos and a pickup truck. The pickup truck is going to be paid for with seizure money from certain drug cases that we've had over the past few years, working with the DA's office on getting all those seizure orders done. We've collected, I think, around 35 or 40,000 towards it already, so we're almost there. I really want to take a few minutes also just to thank the staff of the police department. They're dedicated. They're making Fallsburg safer. I just want to remind everybody sitting here, everybody listening, that everything that's been going on, all these numbers are happening on a skeleton staff. Because I still have 5 people in the police academy till the end of March, a brand new cop sitting at the desk who has to go to the police academy, and 2 more people that are leaving to the state police that we have to replace. So this is just a constant revolving door. My 2 detectives are here tonight. They're overwhelmed in the back. I don't think there's been a week in the last 8 months where they've had their regular scheduled days off. With everything that the state's dumped on us with discovery and bail reform, it's a full-time job for one person, and unfortunately right now I'm doing it with them. The last 2 months of the year were challenging to say the least. Our department had to get through the flu bug that ran through it. We still managed to close out some major cases. I just want to touch on one that was really cool. The officers work closely with agencies all the way down to Westchester County. They're investigating multiple grand larcenies. A possible suspect vehicle was brought to light through the use of plate readers, of which this town will have 9 of by the end of the summer. That vehicle happened to be in the town of Fallsburg, go figure. Our officers sent the drone up early one morning, were able to see the suspect vehicle in question. Detectives applied for a search warrant of the property with the Sullivan County DA's office, and when the warrant was executed, they recovered over $250,000 in stolen property, the largest seizure in Fallsburg history. These seizures were all from Sullivan County all the way to Westchester County. The property included everything from enclosed trailers full of people's lawn maintenance equipment to brand new John Deere backhoes that were stolen off the dealer's lot. A suspect was arrested and the property was recovered. I want to thank Anthony Doretsky from the Highway Department for helping us store and move all the equipment in the barn, out of the barn. Storms come in and get it stored for us, and we had some help with a storage container of putting everything in, so I appreciate everybody's help. Lastly, our department partnered with the Fallsburg School District. We hosted a forum for the students to discuss the severity of online threats towards our school. As you know, we had a handful of them, all which were solved and thank God debunked. We also are seeing a decline in that, but unfortunately the other day we had a 12-year-old again that put a threat out which we were able to take care of. He's being prosecuted through the county attorney's office. In closing, I really want to thank the town board for all the work they have done and continue to do in helping Fallsburg become the top police department in the county. It's because of your support that I've been able to take a ship that was sailing into a storm and turn it around and start sailing it towards the sun. So I will continue to work hard and assure you our goal is going to be met. Thank you for all you're doing. Thank you.
All right, last up, our highway superintendent.
How's it going? It's been a tough winter. Our first storm of the year was November 22nd through today. We've gone out 30 times for plowing and sanding with overtime. Gone through a lot of salt, sand, this icy pavement. Temperatures have been very tough this year with trying to get trucks started, and I will say the guys have been really working hard trying to get things going. Fortunately we haven't had a storm when the sub-zero temperatures and the trucks wouldn't start. I do want to say thank you. We got 2 of our new trucks, 2 new dump trucks. The one single axle's here, the other one's down at Arthur Glick's. We'll get that Friday. So that'll help in getting back in service to keep on the road. We do have, like the chief said, we have a serious flu bug going around the barn right now. Like we're predicting snow tomorrow. Right now I'm down 5 guys. We'll get through it one way or another. It might not be, all the trucks might not be out at once, but we'll get as many as we can out on the road, I do want to say thank you to the town board also for, when I call, they listen, let them know what kind of problems there are. I appreciate the new dump trucks coming. The town definitely needs them. You guys do work very hard. We've been cutting trees and brush over there on Avon Lodge for the bridge, for the rail trail. Guys been doing that. I did meet with Bobby Scheinman from Woodburn Lawn and Garden for the rail trail by the tunnel for his donation he's going to do. We're going to work with him as long as the weather's good and I can get guys in there to help cut trees to get for the trail. What else? The flu bug. And we've been putting a list together for the roads that we want to pave and chip seal this summer. So we're just waiting on contractors to get back with the prices, and but we do have a list going, and that's for this month.
Thank you. All right, with that said, let's move on to our agenda items for tonight. First one's pretty straightforward. Motion to approve warrant number 12C24 dated 12/21/25 in the amount of $310,097.23.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Number 2, so this is to replace Bobby McKeon. But, you know, we do need to move forward, and his deputy is slated to take over his position. So what we have on the agenda now is to bring up his salary that would be commensurate to the water department head. So number two, motion to approve the salary increase for Rob Ward to assume duties of department head in water department to $90,000 effective 1/20/25.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye, motion passes. So number three, so what happens here is that a lot of times when a developer, you know, is finishing up a project, you know, they wanna, you know, start letting people move in, you know, and trying to get COs. However, there's still a number of checklist items that need to be done prior to doing that. So a lot of times we'll enter in agreements where they will take the cost of doing all these checklist items and put it into a bond or an escrow set aside, so that in case they don't perform these duties, the town can then come in and perform it and then take those funds. So what's happened here is that the developer has performed a number of those checklist items and would like to release the funds that would be allocated for those items. So essentially, that's what we're doing now, just releasing the funds for the items that they did complete, and they still have more items to complete and more funds set aside. So resolution number 15 of 2025, approving the partial release of bond pursuant to the developer's agreement with regard to the 4252 Luxury Villas Condominium Development Project, also known as Westbourne Estates, SBL number 21-42.1 and 42.5 and 42.4.
Motion.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye, motion passes. So number four, I just want to pull the board, I'd like to table the toll ordinance for tonight. I just want to make sure everyone's in agreement for the record.
Make a motion to table it.
Second.
I have a motion to table and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and I have one recusal. So I have one last motion to add for tonight. So usually when we establish local laws, the state wants us to file them in order, and our last meeting on January 21st, we passed the local law for the sewer law, and we designated it local law number 2, but we did not pass local law number 1. So we're looking to just clarify to redesignate local law number 2 of 2025 to local law number 1 of 2025 regarding the sewer law. So all we're doing is just cleaning up that language. So do I have a motion to redesignate local law number 2 of 2025 to local law number 1 of 2025 regarding the sewer law that was passed on January 21st?
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Alright, so now we're gonna move on to our discussion items for tonight. Number 1, rezoning of SBL 32A-1-20 Kyle Farm Road subdivision, Curlyville, from agricultural district to Hamlet residential district, presented by Glenn Smith, representing Adam Gold.
Glenn's not here, so you got us instead. I'm Josh Ingber, Adam Gold. Appreciate you guys taking the time today. We are really just looking to get, some comments and initial suggestions from the board. We're looking to put some multifamily workforce housing that I think we all know is desperately needed in this town. We currently have about 30 units that we manage.
Yes, you have them.
This we already have.
You don't have it. There's also a picture of one of our buildings that we have.
You do have that? Yes.
We might not have it.
We don't have that.
We don't have that. So that's a building that we developed 2 years ago with White Lake. We're kind of looking to do a similar style. Similar, I mean, there's a floor plan there, so you can kind of get an idea. I mean, they're all 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. Probably gonna be in the 1,000 square foot range is where we'd like to be. We were really just looking to get some initial comments and see how how you guys felt about maybe getting that change. Our initial plan would be to do 2 buildings, 2 8-unit buildings each, so it'll be 16 units total, with potentially 2 more if it worked out, and, you know. Right now, we do have a wait list between here and Bethel for all of our properties. I mean, we have 12 units in Hurleyville, and we have the 8 in Bethel.
You said workforce housing?
Yes.
How much you're looking to charge?
The 1 bedrooms are in like the 1,100 a month range, and the 2 bedrooms are in like 1,400 to 1,500 range.
And I think we adjust as necessary to make sure.
Correct.
we
And, I mean,
fill the apartments.
The Center for Discovery is, I mean, they are telling us they're losing potential employees because they can't find housing locally.
And we have met with them, and we do have their support.
So
I'd say that.
we're hoping we can, you know, tap into their workforce and a bunch of other local businesses. We both run businesses here. My office is a stone's throw that way, his is a stone's throw that way. We can certainly, I mean, attest to people
This
needing
lot
housing.
at one point was,
It was, and it actually touches Main Street now.
it was HR, it switched to
Correct.
that, right?
At some point it
That actually
was.
touches Main Street.
Correct.
Of the property.
Recent, within the last couple of years? I
I think
remember
it's a-
there was
yeah.
something screwy there.
It's been in the I wanna say the last 5 to 10 years it
Yeah.
was rezoned. Yeah, I'm not sure why they did, but it
Okay.
was at some
Wanted to be
point.
protected, right?
Yeah, I just remember something.
And everything would be managed by us. We manage our current
Yeah,
properties, we would manage.
Develop, manage it, own it, see it through. I do have some pictures of some of our properties, so you kinda get, if you wanna get an idea of what the units look like. I mean, they're all nice units, washer, dryers, I mean, we try to build things that we wanna live in.
So it would be right on Kyle Farm Road, right
Yes,
off Main Street?
So I have, the bigger map here that kind of shows our potential where we preliminary like to lay the buildings out. So Main Street's right down here. And the entrance is most likely be here or off of here, there's another entrance. And now this road's all paved already, the electrics is there, everything's kind of, yeah, I mean, it's essentially ready.
And this is targeting workforce, but is that Center for Discovery workforce? Or just
No,
regular
we're not strict, we're looking to cater to anybody that would be willing to, I mean, in our other buildings right now, we have, you know, some local teachers, we actually have some town employees, we have Center for Discovery, Bethel Woods employees, UPS.
When we started, originally, the planning was go to all the biggest employers, ask them if they're having issues.
And
So, we did that.
everyone's pretty much said the same thing from, and I think that's a countywide problem, it's not just, they're statewide, it's not just here.
I have employees in New York.
Sure.
Now, the pricing, 1 bedroom, 1,100, 2 bedroom, 1,400, 1,500 range, is that something that you'd be willing to put a cap on, or is it just gonna do based on market rates?
We're kind of just, the cost to build these days, it's tough to get much less. We have, all of our buildings do have heat pumps for heating and cooling, spray foam, so the electric bills we're seeing in Bethel right now are about $100 for heating, cooling,
Every full utilities.
and that's everything all in. So, and we found that there's a lot of stuff that is kind of not as new, and it's going for either more or about the same, and like I said, we have a wait list of people, we've had no pushback.
We haven't been vacant for more than a month.
In any of the 30 properties. So, I mean,
It's working.
again, it's hard to put a cap on that, just because the cost to build right now, there's a lot of variables there.
So potentially, when it's built in a year or two, it could possibly be a little bit more, depending on what the market is
To
like.
be honest with you, we have not had to raise any rent in the 3 years that we've been doing this, so I mean, I'd like to think that we'd be able to keep it in that range.
And the waiting list you have, is that, do you know where they work, where they're, you know?
I mean, you have Bethel Woods, we have Center for Discovery, local teachers, we have we actually also have some retirees in there that have recently sold their houses, looking to downsize, but stay in the area.
Medical professionals.
Yeah, we have Crystal Run, so it's just that mix of.
Makes sense.
Any questions from the board?
No.
All right, if you have additional questions, so we'll reach
Okay,
out.
great, yeah, and if you'd like, we can, I mean, we'll work through any questions, we could also have you in front of the planning board and kind of feel them out on it, whatever we could do, please let us know. And
Right, it's always a tricky thing with zoning changes, because typically, you know, it should be the board doing it piecemeal, it should be a comprehensive plan done by the community, and, you know, they kind of decide for us and we kind of go with it.
Understood.
So,
And our main,
there has to be like a really overwhelming benefit to want to change the zoning.
and look, I think the location, it's, I mean, it touches Main Street, which is this commercial, I mean, that's really where we need the housing. And these people will be able to walk into town, support the businesses in town.
So it's a pretty large parcel, it's 13 acres.
It is.
And so you're looking to do 16 units, possibly more.
32, so that would be what we're
32.
looking to do.
Yeah, as you can see there, it'd be those four.
Yeah, it would just, that's the, yeah, I do have an actual.
Would it be done in phases? Would you look to?
Yes, we'd like to do 2 buildings, get them rented, and then move on to the second
How many
2.
units in a building?
There's 8 units in each
Eight
building.
in the
Yep.
building?
And this is 8 units right there?
That's an 8-unit building right there, yep. There's a floor plan, there's a floor plan, that's the second floor.
4 down and 4 on top.
It's the exact same mirror on top and bottom.
And if anyone wants to come see this building.
Yeah, and I encourage you guys to take a ride by and take a look at it, it's right in White Lake, right across from the old Logan School. I think that's it.
Let us know, we're happy to
Yeah.
show it to you anytime.
Something we need.
Yeah, that's, so. Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want this back?
No, you keep that, if you have anything on that.
Your apartment.
Well,
Look at apartment.
sell my house?
All right.
I haven't figured that out.
We're gonna move on to number 2. So number 2, Empress, SBL number 17-130.1, 31, 32, and 34.4, and 18-1-10. This is for a water district extension presented by Steve.
I'm not sure it's necessarily as much as an extension as it's an allocation issue. This is a project that's been kind of stalled at the planning board for quite some time, over the years. One of the issues is, and I think one of the public comments addressed it, that, you know, Ken has determined there is no available capacity for new projects. So you have projects like the Empress that can go forward that are really kind of stuck without, until there's more of a capacity. Unfortunately, though, there are projects that have been approved for quite some time, including literally some from when I was on the planning board, that have been given allocations that, you know, that's just kind of hanging out there. And what that leads to is, you know, basically per se moratorium and a lack of, you know, available tax revenue and water revenue that would then let you do some more development. So I did meet with Ken and met with staff. I think Ken's on, right? And we discussed maybe taking some of the allocation projects that aren't gonna be built in the next 18 to 24 months, and at least allowing other projects that are ready to go to proceed. So that's really what I coming to the board for. I expect Ken will agree with, or give the same sort of pitch. I don't know if he has any thoughts other than that, but
So
that's what we're here.
just for clarification, so all the parcels are fully and wholly inside the water district?
I'll check on every single one of them, but I believe most of them are, yes. Ken can probably.
All right, so the discussion is not about the
It's
extending
more- it's an allocation issue.
Okay. Pretty interesting. Ken, would you be able to speak on this matter?
Yeah, thank you. So, as Steve indicated, we wanted to start the discussion about the permits. We have a DPW capacity service permit application, that's the full name, that went in place probably 2018, 2019. So the procedure is you fill out this permit, I review the water consumption or sewer consumption for both water and sewer, and determine if there's capacity available, and if there is, I sign the permit. The permit holder then has 6 months of which to break ground on his project or apply for an extension of this permit. And so, the projects that are pending now, none of them have a permit to move forward, but they do have resolutions from the planning board that reference needing to get a permit. So one of the projects in particular, as Steve indicates, been around for a long time. We don't know if they are gonna move forward quickly, if they're going to be another 3 or 4 years prior to moving ahead. They do not hold a permit, yet they have a resolution for planning board, for site plan approval, special use permit, indicating allocation from that side. The other projects, Empress, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure you have a resolution for approval, because we haven't got that far with that, but they are ready, and they are ready to move forward to get a similar condition on approval with the planning board.
I have not appeared from the planning board for Empress yet. I'm kind of new to the project, so I don't believe that, I'm fairly sure they don't have that resolution.
Yeah, so in other words, there's one project that is one step ahead, and then there is another project that is also right there to get planning board resolution, trying to avoid names at this point for the projects. But so the difficulty is enforcing these permits, and then it says in the permit, on the back of the permit, that if the permit expires and you don't have a permit, it's a first come, first served basis, and your allocation would go to the next person in line. That's a challenge, right? So that's a challenge for you guys on the board, because I'm sure you'll get the calls if somebody steps or feels that they have, somebody stepped in front of them in line. So I'm trying to get a handle on how we should proceed in these cases, because I do get calls frequently, probably once a week, from developers indicating they've got workers that are ready to go, and people that are out of work and need work. So I mean, it is having an economic issue on the town and the people that are local that are trying to do work on these projects. But there is just a, how would I say this? So one project is twice the size of the other two projects. And they're all in the same situation. The larger project is the one that we're not sure when they'll start. The other two smaller ones are ready to start with a few cleanup items at the planning board. And I just don't know what to tell them as far as moving forward. And I didn't want to do anything prior to the board, at least having a discussion, another opportunity, maybe in a work session to work this through or discuss this through.
Okay, so you're referring to it was the build at your own risk law that was passed like 2 years ago, where everyone has to get a permit to tap into the water or sewer. So now with the allocations, I guess as it's a first come, first serve, and whoever's ready to tap into that.
And I think that's a fair process to go by, as long as people are prepared to actually move forward. Otherwise, you have allocation that, and like I said before, not only, it's a twofold problem, because not only do you have projects that are not getting built, and people again are not working, and people have an investment that they're essentially stopped. So Empress is essentially stopped from really even going back to the planning board and finishing their process, because they can't solve, they know they don't work fast right now. But more than that, the town then, because this allocation hangs out there, loses initially the tax revenue, because these are all tax-paying houses. 2, loses the water revenue, which is what you use to both run your system and develop more water. And it's always a self-defeating issue. So, I'm not saying that, you know, if you are not ready to build in your project, essentially, you shouldn't have to start over, but you should move down the line until, if there's someone ready to move forward. And it's just, that from my perspective, you know, it's something that I think the town needs to do both. It's good for the, you know, it's obviously good for the developer that's waiting, but I think it's really good for the town as well, because it kind of starts that pipeline of more revenue for both exploration and operation of the water system.
So I guess, you know, there's some variables that we have to look at, you know, like how do we determine, you know, whether the project is ready to go forward? You know, you said that they're not gonna do anything in 18 to 24 months, and they should really give up that allocation and move back kind of to the back of the line a little bit, and let other projects that are ready to go have that allocation.
Well, I think if you haven't pulled the permits in 24 months, maybe that could be part of it. I mean, I think a lot is gonna happen on the staff level, in the sense that the staff's gonna meet with these developers all through the planning board process. And look, once an approval is granted and they have the allocation, there's a period of time, I think Ken said it was 6 months, to start pulling permits. And I would tell you that, you know, I've dealt with the town of Fallsburg and their professionals for a long time. If at month 5, you're 2 months away, you know, going back to the professionals, and you could put that process in place too, and say, hey, I need another, you know, just closing my bank, I need another few weeks, you know. But what I think is happening more often than not is either they're not prepared to start because they don't have the market for that particular project, or they don't have, you know, or it's a developer that got an approval and is shopping it, and just after 6 months hasn't sold it yet to someone that's ready to build. In that case, I mean, if you have a project that is ready to move forward, you should probably get the opportunity to, I think they should probably get the opportunity to do that.
Okay, so typically they have 6 months, and I know planning board approvals are good for 18 months, but as far as the permit to tap into water and sewer, that's good for 6 months. They have 6 months to break ground, you know, then they're considered, I guess, invested, and they hold on to that allocation. But if they don't move forward to at least break ground, then it would make sense that they're kind of forfeiting that allocation.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think maybe the idea is to set a criteria for what is considered, you know, moving forward, what is considered, you know, like you said, if they don't pull permits by X amount of time, then that's the criteria.
I remember, the permit doesn't mean, you know, the permit gives them another window of opportunity to start building. So, you know.
Do we know for the projects that are kind of on hold, that are kind of holding on to these allocations, has anyone reached out to them to see if maybe they're gonna start next month, next year, 2 years?
I can't answer that.
There are a number of legal issues that we have to explore with regard to this, and if the board wants us to try to explore that, we certainly could put the meetings together to explore it, because there's really only a couple of ways to go, notwithstanding the 6 month and how we enforce that mechanism. We have to examine the enforceability of those expirations. We do have a number of projects where there are all manner of agreements that have been signed with regard to development and so on, and there may or may not be a vested rights issue. There really are 2 ways to go forward with this. One would be that anyone that has one of these arguable vested rights is willing to go down the list voluntarily, because there may be a copyright involved, and or secondarily, if there become firm plans to make an expansion of capacity. So as long as it's not a pie in the sky, well, down the line we're going to build something, if we have some particular project, we would point to say, look, this is what we're going to do, it's going to give us X amount of capacity, which will restore the ability to do that. So there are a significant number of factors that we have to examine with regard to these projects. And as the board well knows, we do have some fairly old projects where they're trying to enforce older agreements that were signed a number of years ago with regard to well development and other things that were dictated by the planning board and so on. So there are a bunch of different issues with regard to this. But if the board wants us to look into it, we certainly can put together a meeting identify the legal issues, identify what would be necessary to enforce the 6-month limitation, what we would have to do, whether it's consent, whether there's lawsuits to extinguish these things, but there are a lot of factors that we do need to examine in order to be able to substitute the order of things that's been established.
So the argument here, or the discussion here is about, you know, how to allocate whatever's left of our capacity, you know, to current projects. But there's also the side that we're looking to increase our capacity, you know, Ken has a number of projects that are specifically targeted for the Loch Sheldrick area, to be able to increase water capacity there, and, you know, where we put out for grants and other funding specifically for these projects and LS. So I guess once we have, you know, we can commit to a infrastructure project to upgrade something there, then, you know, there's a lead time there. If it takes like 2 years to come to fruition, you know, we know it'll take 2 years to complete the development project, then technically we could theoretically
Move
forward. So it's a discussion that's twofold. It's about the remaining capacity and also increasing capacity and being able to give you that access. So there's things that we can do as a board, you know, both in the definition of who gets that capacity as well as increasing our capacity, our infrastructure projects as well.
So I would just leave you with the financial harm to the people waiting is it's pretty real. So is this something that, I mean, I appreciate the deliberation that the board's gonna take in this, and I appreciate what Rich just told you. What would be my next step, or what would you responsibly want me to do? Is it meet with Rich in a couple weeks, or is it come back to the board?
I mean, me personally, I'd like to have more information as to who is still in the pipeline and been waiting 5-10 years, you know, that have allocations that may or may not be vested.
I don't know that the board should be going project to project. I'm not sure that that's a proper town board approach. However, the town board could authorize us to start looking into it to see how do we enforce it. If there's an expiration, how is that enforced? What are these permits conditions? Is it self-executing? Is it something that there has to be a notice from the town? Because there are due process rights with regard to any of these approvals. And while I recognize Mr. Vandy's clients, their delay may cost them money. The approvals where there are allocations attained were not attained without a significant expenditure of resources and money, engineering, lawyers, and so on, in order to attain that particular right to develop a special use permit, site plan, whatever it is. So there are things that we have to look at. There are also, depending on, you know, there are varying degrees of whether a shovel's been in the ground. You know, it's conceivable there's a project where groundwork was authorized and they did $150,000 worth of groundwork actually working on the ground, could create a vesting that is going to trump the expiration of the permits. There's some legal issues to definitely review, and as long as the board is amenable to us spending that time, we certainly, you know, within 2 weeks, 4 weeks, can get some preliminary ideas as to how it is. We're going to need to see, we're going to need to review what these permits are. We're going to need to review what these permits say. We're going to have to double check our code with regard to it and do some legal research to see, you know, it can't be the first time that this has occurred in this setting. So limited resources.
So for all we know, these developments could already have vested rights that we don't know about, or once we find out.
Without an evaluation, we can't say.
Right. So it would be.
Come back in about a month?
Yeah, say so, yeah, because we want to see if, for all we know, maybe some of them don't have vested rights, that, you know, now they can get bumped back, but they may all have vested rights.
Ideas as to what your thoughts are
How
on what extinguishment might look like, or what a reallocation of the ordering.
I'll correspond with Rich, and maybe we'll come back in a month on that. I just want to make a point about the third item on the agenda. I did speak with my client, we asked to be pulled off the agenda. With everything that is going on with the agriculture zone, we agreed that pending what you do with your zoning change, just wasn't timely to really have that discussion with you now. So we'll be back at some point after you you have weightier issues to deal with than this.
Okay, all right, so that discussion will be tabled for another time.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks.
All right, so with that said, that's the end of our discussion items. I believe we want to go into executive session to discuss contracts. I'll entertain a motion to do that.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to enter into executive session to discuss contracts. All in favor? Aye, motion passes. We don't anticipate any further business after executive session. I'd like to thank everybody for coming in.
Mike, hold on and I'll give you a copy of the total.
I was just gonna take a ride tomorrow, have coffee, and bring it to everybody, and